Many people assume, understandably, that my Christian belief and my commitment to Christ would cause me to fall sort of in the either fundamentalist or conservative side of of thought concerning religion and issues of church and state in the United States. This is my feeling on religion. The pastoral epistles of the New Testament notwithstanding, I feel like, and this is my feeling, God is great, religion is bad. Christ is great, religion is god awful. I feel like religion is an archaic social construct that existed before we had civil government. And pretty much at one point in time, we saw this, say, in, if you read English history, there's a great work, it's a bit dense, but there's a great work by Bede called The Ecclesiastical History of the English People. And if you read Bede's work, and if you start looking as early as, say, like 754 AD or 754 of the Common Era, all the way up through the 1500s, you saw that canon law, which is, religious law, law according to scripture, canon law and civil law were equated. Um, throughout much of European history, this was so. And so there's a great historical wealth of examples and information that show us clearly that religion is dangerous. Now, affirming belief in God, in other words, when we start talking about theology, when we start talking about how do you define divine power, how do you define divinity? In my case, I've been very upfront about that. I affirm Jesus Christ. But at the same time, for me, that's a theological affirmation. That's an argument. That's a proposition. And I should have to back that up. I feel like religion gives a lot of non-thinking people an easy way out. If I say to you, as somebody holding 3 graduate degrees and a doctorate, that I believe 2,000 years ago that one particular man was put to death, buried, and 3 days later was raised by an omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent power, I shouldn't be allowed to slide on that. I should have to follow that up with something. Because thinking people and my respect for thinking people and their thoughts demands that I have to explain that as much as I can. I have to back that up with something. Even if it's only me being honest about this is my affirmation of faith. But I have to admit that I can ostensibly prove that using the rhetoric and the vocabulary of a secular society. I have to admit that. Now, I'm not the first person to really draw this line between religion and theology. I understand the purpose of religion. As a social science, it's important to understand it, to study it, and religion need not involve a deity. Religion need only involve ritual and routinization, to walk lockstep, sometimes goose-stepping, along with certain rules and traditions. When you start thinking theologically, and interestingly enough, I think if even in a New Testament context, you find Christ to be the theologian, the Pharisees to be the religionist. Whenever you look at religion historically, religion rewards non-thinking. And religion lambasts the person who says, let's stop and pause there. So when I say I affirm the resurrection, we should pause there for a moment. I should have to back that up. And by back it up, I don't mean to prove as much as to sort of give you some footnotes there in terms of how I got there, just for me. And I would hope that the same of someone, say, reading the Mahabharata, or particularly reading the Bhagavad Gita, if they're reading that exchange between Arjuna and Krishna. I want some footnotes there to know how you affirm Dharma, how you affirm duty with detachment, how you get there. And I honestly believe religion does not inculcate that. Religion, to a certain extent, does not want you to think. Theology at its best is anti-religious. It questions, why do we have to walk lockstep with this on the basis of tradition? That's where I fall in religion. At the end of the day, I don't need a building of brick and mortar to affirm my belief. I must live it out. And for a view of people, I must understand that I'm human, that I'm given over to flaws. But I love what Barth said about this. I'm paraphrasing, but he referred to religion as the work of, and I'm paraphrasing, godless humanity. In other words, when your faith dies, that's when you need a religion. And I think to that extent, Bono sort of had something like that. Like religion is what happens whenever God leaves the building. Again, paraphrasing. But that's where I fall with religion versus theology and affirming my faith. So um, that's where I fall on that. And in terms of civil society and religion, I think church and state need to be even more separated than they already are. I preach on Sunday. I understand that. If I want my faith imported into the public sphere, I need to do that by way of loving people and the way that I live. If I have to tell you that I'm a Christian, if I have to outright say I'm a follower of Jesus Christ Monday through Saturday, then obviously something's not working on Sunday. That's where I fall on religion.